The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has broken silence on the issue of political map released by China that excludes some of Nepal's region. The ministry has clarified that Nepal stands firm and clear on its political and administrative map that was unanimously approved by the parliament, adding that the government remains committed to resolve the boundary matters through diplomacy and dialogues. Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanamma. Let's begin with the top stories of the hour. Ministry of Foreign Affairs response to issue of political map released by China says neighboring nations must acknowledge Nepal's political and administrative map. The government's 16th five-year plan to be released in the next 5 months with a priority to coordination between the 3 tiers of government. Experts call for a time-relevant plan. Gabon's military chief says suspension of democracy only temporary, but has refused to provide a timeline for fresh elections. And it's India versus Pakistan at the Asia Cup today. The match to kick off at 3:15 p.m. Nepal time. Weather reports, however, raise concerns, leaving fans and players keeping an eye on the skies. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has issued a statement in response to the recent political map released by China. The northern neighbor had released a map in August 28th last month, which shows Nepal's region in Limpiadhura and Lipulekh as India's part. The ministry has clarified that the political and administrative map, including those regions, had been endorsed unanimously by the Nepal's parliament in 2020 and expressed belief that the neighboring nations and the international community will respect the map. The ministry also said it is committed in addressing border issues through dialogue and diplomacy. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal is embarking on a tour of China beginning 21st of September later this month. All the media attention at this time has been grabbed by a new map released by China earlier this week, which has failed to recognize the map released by Nepal in 2020. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal is scheduled to directly fly to China from New York on 21st of September. At this juncture, a map released by China, which has incorporated Arunachal in its territory, has also sent ripples in Nepal. This is because the map notably misses the pointed spur that incorporates Lipulekh, Limpiadhura and Kalapani as Nepal's territory. India has been refusing to concede the land to Nepal, while China has also ignored Nepal's ownership of the land. It may be recalled that India and China had struck an agreement to expand business route through Lipulekh. Despite using Nepal's territory, both India and China at the time had not bothered to contact Nepal. The incident had raised huge uproar in Nepal as the then government had issued a diplomatic note to both India and China. Experts have this time urged Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahal to raise the issue during his upcoming China visit. CPN Maoist Center is to begin a 3-month campaign from today. Party spokesperson Agni Sabkota, during a press conference in the party's office in Paris, Dada, announced that the party has decided to kick off a campaign for party transformation in line with the public interest. Sabkota informed that leaders from the centre would be stationed at various local levels as part of the campaign. Prime Minister and Party Chair Pushpa Kamal Dahal is to kick off the campaign from Chandragiri municipality. The party has aimed at directly reaching out to at least 2.5 million voters and inform them of the party and the government's plans. CPN YEML is organizing provincial committee convention in all provinces for the first time in 8 years since the country implemented federal structure. The party's provincial committee convention will kick off with Lumbini province convention that will last till Sunday and will elect leadership for the provincial committee. Prior to this, the provincial committees were led by leaders chosen by the centre, and this had invited criticism to the party. However, there are concerns of untoward interventions during the election, as the party leadership has directed contenders to refrain from holding factional assemblies. The Lumbini Province Committee Convention will see Radha Krishna Kadel, Lakshman Acharya and Hari Rijal contest for the provincial leadership. The party's convention in Madhesh Province has been scheduled for 22nd and 23rd of September, Bagmati Province for the 25th and 26th, Karnali for 27th and 28th, and Koshi for 29th and 30th of September. Likewise, the provincial convention for Gandaki will be held on 2nd and 3rd of October, Sudur Pashchim on 8th and 9th of October. A Kathmandu Valley specific convention will be held on 5th and 6th of October. The government aims to implement its 16th five-year plan from July next year. So far, the Council of Ministers has approved the draft proposed by National Planning Commission, which was prepared by reviewing the practices so far, progress and experiences. Experts, meanwhile, have criticized the Commission's proposal, saying it is inadequate and lacks relevancy. It may be recalled during the implementation of the 15th five-year plan, the government had failed to attain its goal of an economic growth of 9.6%, as the overall growth was 2.4% in the first year. This was attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. The National Planning Commission this time has prioritized 3 strategies, which includes identifying and addressing the reasons for obstructions in development efforts, ensuring good governance, social justice and prosperity by increasing coordination among all 3 tiers of the government. Almost 7 decades have gone by since the government began the practice of 5-year plans. 15-year plans, in fact, have also been in place, based on which the government's plan of graduating the country from a least developed nation to developing country has been attained. Experts have therefore opined the Commission and the government should make a time-relevant plan. The government is currently doing legwork to publish the document of the 16th five-year plan by mid-February next year, which will be a basis for the next fiscal year's plans and policies and budget. The festive season in the country has begun, while businesses have started raising the prices of daily essentials randomly under various pretexts. Businesses in the Nepali market had raised the price of rice by 200 rupees per sack a day after India put a ban on export of rice a month ago. A 20 kilograms of sack of popular brand Jeera Masilo, which was sold at 1,750 rupees last year, the price for it has been raised to 2,300 now. Likewise, the price of long grain rice has been raised to 3,300 rupees per 20 kilogram of sack from 2,600. Rice has continued to be imported from India, while the businesses have been more intent on raising prices, citing that the ban on export of rice could come into effect anytime. India has banned the export of rice, citing management of the internal market. However, the country has said that it has not banned the export in a number of neighboring countries, including Nepal. Despite this scenario, the monitoring bodies have failed to take any actions against the faulty businesses. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, what's your take on repeated strikes in sectors of emergency service providers? Your options are A, managerial lapses, B, lack of accountability, and C, compulsion of employees. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Let's move on to the international update. Gabon's new military leader has pledged to return the country to democracy, but has refused to provide a timeline for fresh elections. General Brice Oligui Nguema said the country's state institutions would be made more democratic and their suspension was only temporary. But Gabon's opposition coalition says the military shows no signs of handing power back to a civilian government. In a televised address, General Nguema said the military would move quickly but surely so to avoid elections that repeat the same mistakes by keeping the same people on power. Gabon's main opposition group, Alternance 2023, which says it is the rightful winner of Saturday's election, urged the international community to encourage a return to civilian rule. The coup in Gabon is the 8th in West and Central Africa since 2020, following Niger, Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso and Chad. It has been condemned by the United Nations, the African Union and France, its former colonial power, which had close ties to the Bongo family. Bongo, who had been in power since 2009, appeared in a video at home this week, calling on his friends all over the world to make noise on his behalf. But his removal has also been celebrated by many in Gabon who have grown resentful of his and his family's regime. Crowds in the capital, Libreville, and elsewhere were seen celebrating the army's declaration earlier this week. Residents angered by rising power costs protested in Karachi, with some burning their electricity bills and venting their anger on the local power company. Shops and markets were closed down as part of the protests, which have been mirrored daily across Pakistan after some bills which have more than doubled in recent months. K Electric is the only electricity generator, transmitter and distributor for Karachi, Pakistan's largest city, and its adjoining areas. Singapore's ex-Deputy Prime Minister Tharman Shanmugaratnam has been elected president. A stalwart of the ruling party, Tharman was elected to the ceremonial post in the first contested vote in more than a decade. The former Deputy Prime Minister has been elected to the post in an election seen as a barometer of public sentiments towards the ruling party amid economic challenges. The Elections Department on Friday declared the 66-year-old economist as the winner over two rival candidates after securing 70.4% of votes. Shanmugaratnam, a long-time leader of the ruling People's Action Party (PAP), resigned from the government and the party ahead of the first contested presidential election in more than a decade. Tharman will replace incumbent Halima Yaqub, who ran unopposed for her 6-year term in 2017. The city-state's government is run by the Prime Minister, currently Lee Hsien Loong of the PAP, a party that has ruled Singapore continuously since 1959. Analysts said the landslide victory for the candidate seen as closest to the establishment is a sign that Singaporeans generally still trust the ruling People's Action Party (PAP). North Korea has fired several cruise missiles towards the Yellow Sea in the early hours today, according to the South Korean military. Details of the launch were being analyzed by South Korean and U.S. intelligence authorities, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said in a statement. It was the latest in a series of missile tests and military exercises conducted by the North in recent weeks, including a failed spy satellite launch late last month. Seoul has announced sanctions yesterday on 5 North Korean individuals and 1 company in response to Pyongyang's launch of what it said was a space rocket last month. Guatemala's President-elect Bernardo Arevalo denounced a coup orchestrated from the state institutions days after the suspension of his party by electoral authorities sowed doubts about the transition. Arevalo, a 64-year-old former diplomat and son of a former president, resoundingly won the August 20 second-round runoff election. Prosecutors previously threatened to bar his party, Semilla, from the election, prompting an international outcry. Shortly before Electoral Tribunal, officials declared Arevalo the victor at a press conference last week. Semilla was notified that a branch of the tribunal suspended the party. It said the party's registration had flaws, but the impact of the suspension was not clear. Arevalo said he will appeal the illegal suspension, while the Organization of American States, OAS, said the suspension was unjustified. That is all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.